This is a video that's a little bit different to anything that I've ever made before or probably will ever make again, because I'm going to be talking about myself and something that I didn't realise needed to be addressed as much as it actually does. And the source of the person that made me realise that this needed to be addressed as much as it actually does was not a person that I thought I would be taking advice from. Now, I'll get into it in just a moment, but there's a lot to this, which is a lot more than just me talking about the content that we used to make over on our other channel, Laney and Ben, which is the topic of this video. All right, and there's a lot of things to this, so I want to try and keep it concise, because I don't want to be sat here waffling for an hour, because I could just talk forever about it. But you know, there are some important things that played factors in why we did what we did on that channel, why we kept it up for as long as we did, and basically the fallout from it and all the rest of it. So let's go back to the very beginning and why I'm making this video in the first place. A YouTuber by the name of Beardo created a video a few days ago talking about, I can't remember what the title was specifically, but it had me and Yasko in the thumbnail. And someone sent me the screenshot of the thumbnail, and they were like, Beardo's got this video on his YouTube channel. And I sent it straight over to Jazz on a text, and I was like, do you know anything about this? I was like, I haven't seen the video, I've just been sent this, are we cooked? Or something like that, along those lines, trying to be jovial with it. Yaska was like, no, haven't seen the video, I'll go and check it out. I was walking the dog at the time, and he sent me a text about 20 minutes after, and he said, I think you should check this out. So I thought, okay. So I went on my dog walk, had my headphones in, and I played the video. And I was just watching it. I think, you know, I just had it in my pocket as well at times, just playing it, listening to what was being said. And I went into it incredibly anxious. And the reason I was incredibly anxious, I was like, what have I done this time? What have I done? I was like, I don't know what I could have done to have a video made, but I was anxious to find out. So I found out. And it was one of the first times where I'd ever walked away from a video like that and been like, actually, he makes really fair points. And I respected the video because it wasn't shit-slinging, it wasn't name-calling, it wasn't Beardo trying to, you know, tear me a new arsehole. Instead, what it was a very grounded video. No massive editing, no crazy over-the-top shenanigans, no, like, you know, just, it was just him talking to the camera and through the camera addressing me. And I thought, okay, I can listen to this. I can respect this. So I watched it and listened to it. And I thought, I walked away from the video thinking, fair enough. Fair enough. He's made some really valid points here. And actually, it's something that I never thought would need to be addressed, or I never thought anyone would necessarily care to be addressed. And the reason I felt that way was because I felt like people had already made their opinions on me personally, based off of you know, the content that we used to make. So I thought, those people aren't going to listen to me. And that's genuinely how I felt. I felt like those, whether I say anything, whether I, you know, come clean about the content, whether I try and explain the situation, they're not going to listen, and they don't care to listen, because ultimately their minds are made up about me. And as much as I, you know, was utterly, you know, frustrated at times because I felt like I didn't have an opportunity to share my voice, and there's a lot of factors to that. I know that I'll get into that in just a moment, but I thought, you know, we haven't made that content for well over a year now. On the Laney and Ben channel, we've completely 180'd the content, and the channel was doing phenomenally well until recently. And you know, it was just, I didn't think it needed to be spoken about. But then I read the comments, and I saw how people truly felt about me talking about the topic. And I thought, fuck, actually, these people are asking for this. They like, regardless of whether it's never going to change people's opinions. And I'm not here right now telling you, please come back and all the rest of it. You know, like, I don't care about that. And, you know, if people have made their minds up, then absolutely fine. But ultimately, I had a very long time to think about it, and that's why it's taken me until now to really make this video, because I've contemplated about how I knew I wanted to make this video straight from the get-go. As soon as that video dropped and I listened to what he had to say and I thought about it, I thought that video does need to be made, but it was how I went about it. I mean, this is now the part of the video where, in typical YouTube apology fashion, I blame you, the audience. I'm not going to do that. That was just me making a shit joke. But, you know, like, that's just typical YouTube responses. If you've ever seen a YouTube apology, it's always the audience's fault. It's always the viewer's fault. But in this instance, it's not. It is, like, and what... The reason I bring this up is because everything that I'm about to go on to talk about is absolutely not me trying to shift any blame. The blame ultimately falls on me, all right? Not on Lainey, not on anyone else that was involved with the channel, me. And I, as someone who I feel like has had to go through a lot of personal growth over the past, 9 months since January of this year. There was a very serious time around December of last year, and around this time last year as well, where I had to do a lot of things and really kind of go through some shit to, better myself, because I was very muddled, okay? And I feel like this is me trying to, like, you might think, oh, he's just trying to shift sympathy blame. I'm not. I feel like this is important context to why everything that's led up to this point has been the way that it is, all right? So, there's a lot of things I've had to do behind the scenes personally to admissions of a lot of things in my personal life that have happened, holding myself accountable for things that have happened in my personal and private life, and holding other people accountable for things that they've done to me in my private life as well. Nothing to do with YouTube. With that, there's been a lot of therapy, there's been a lot of growth personally, and I feel like it's important for me to do this. And as... It shouldn't have taken for someone to make a video for me to realise this. And this is what I'm kicking myself for, is not the fact that Beardo made the video. I think that he had every right to make the video, and actually, if he hadn't made the video, I wouldn't be sat here right now making this very video. So credit goes to the guy. I know we've had our history, but I do want, like I said, I want to talk about that as well, because in my personal life, I've done a lot of, fucking cringe soul searching or whatever, but I feel like it's important if I'm going to address this, I'm going to go the full fucking 9 yards, and I'm going to talk about everything. Anyway, moving on. So it's important for me. I feel like this is the last thing that I need to do to be able to fully move on with my life, with my career, move on with everything, and just start again. All right, I've started again in my personal life, and I need to do it now for this. And this is why I'm frustrated. Not that Beardo made the video, but that I didn't come to this realization myself. Anyway, moving forward. So over on the Laney and Ben channel, we used to make paranormal content, and it got very popular over on TikTok especially, and over on YouTube. To begin with, there were genuinely some very strange things that were happening. Knocks and bangs, and, the cupboard door that blew everything up. That genuinely opened on its own. Now, whether that was real world stuff, we tried to, people were saying, oh, maybe it's just a draft. So we checked to see if, I genuinely sat my head in that cupboard for about half an hour, waiting to see if there was a draft. I couldn't feel one. Maybe it was just the weather conditions that day. Maybe it was this, maybe it was that. Either way, Laney filmed it on camera, uploaded it, and it went really crazy. And we tried to, translate that content over to YouTube. And as the content grew, and as our channel grew, as did the expectation for strange things to happen. So we started making strange things happen. And what I mean by that is we faked content. We made stuff move, we made doors open, and all the rest of it. And as we were having fun with it, and at this point we were saying, this is like we were loving life. It was great fun. We were building an audience. People were like enjoying the content, and it didn't get too deep. Then, as our content grew and as our channel grew, I think we got to around 25 or 30,000 subscribers. So we were still quite fresh into this. We grew quite quickly, quite early on, and a company got involved with our channel. I think the company's folded now, but I don't want to name the company in case they're still about. I don't know if they've rebranded, and they are very. Let's just say they're like the cowboys of the management world, and we've learnt this recently with other people as well who we've spoken to regarding this company. They were the cowboys, okay, and we didn't realise that at the time. They promised us the world, but really it was just shit glazed with sugar. And they got involved with our channel and they were like, you know, we want to grow your channel to this, that, and the other. And we were like, great. But at this point, we were uploading different types of content. We were looking to kind of move away from the paranormal stuff because we were like, all right, that's we've had our fun with that. Well, let's go and do some other type of content. And we did try and like really push it, like the reaction videos over on the main channel. We did vlogs over on the main channel. We did other silly little challenges over on the main channel. And it was, you know, we were like, we really want to hone in on that kind of content. We had a conversation with a lovely lady who was said, that's absolutely fine, we can do that, we can accommodate that for you. So we signed a contract. That was our first mistake. We signed a contract to sign a 3-year deal with this company, and basically what that meant was our channel and content and us were owned by them for that period of time. Now, we didn't really, like, we looked into the contract, but being very naive, we jumped into it both feet first. And, you know, we were like, this is going to be fantastic. They've promised us this, that, and the other. You know, they've promised us this amount of growth. They've said that they can get us these brand deals. They can start up our merch stuff. It was great. And they were like, we can do all of this stuff for you. And we were like, awesome. How cool is this? And so we went both feet, head first, straight into it. No mucking about. And we really should have taken a lot more time to consider what we were actually agreeing to. Because about 6 months into this contract, we were like, they basically told us to begin with, they were like, keep doing what you're doing for now, keep up the paranormal stuff, but we promise you, we'll pivot the content and that'll be a thing of the past, and you know, you can go in the direction that you want it to go in. Amazing. About 6 months down the line, we hadn't, they basically told us that we weren't allowed to move the paranormal content, and we had a meeting with them, and we were like, look, we want to shift it. We want to shift the content. We want to, now's this time, you know, we really feel like this is important. At the time, we had no loss. You know, revenue wasn't a problem or money wasn't a problem because we were both still working full time. I was a PE teacher and Lainey was working with SEN children. You know, she was in infant schools. And we were, you know, we still had our jobs. So if the money dropped off or the views dropped off or the subscribers dropped off, it didn't matter to us because ultimately we weren't dependent on this financially. So they were like, no, we don't think that pivoting is a good idea anymore. We were like, but you promised us that this could be the case. And they were like, no. We've watched how your vlogs and stuff have done and how your reaction videos have done. You know, it's a drop in the ocean compared to the paranormal stuff. And we were like, well, we don't want to do that anymore. And they were like, well, you kind of got to. And we were like, well, we don't. We can do what we want. It's our channel. And then they pulled up the contract and it was like a 51 to 49% split in their favour. So they ultimately had the overarching contractual, we were contractually obligated to do what they told us to do, essentially, and our say had no sway in what happened. So we had to just keep going with it. And as that period came around, these debunking videos started coming out. I think The Shape was the first person to do it, and then I know that Parple was someone that did it as well, and I think that Beardo came into the mix, and I think those were the main 3 people at the time. I think Beardo came a lot later, but, you know, Parple and The Shape were the people that were doing it at the time, and they were tearing the content apart. And we were like, right, this is starting to become more detrimental than good. So we took this evidence that we had, that this was the case, to this company, and we said, look, right now, here's the links to the videos. Our content is getting blasted. Subscribers are walking out the door. And, you know, this is having a detrimental effect and an adverse effect to what you want it to have. And, you know, we were getting dragged through the mud with it. And that was also around the same period of time. And this isn't me blaming any channel specifically, so please don't think I am. I think that this was just someone who was not happy with the content whatsoever. Who then approached me in person in the local town that I used to live in before we moved. And when I was with at the time, I think he was about 4 months old, little Apollo, right? And this whether you believe it or not, completely irrelevant to me. Like, that's the one time in this video where I will tell you that your feelings towards that are irrelevant, because I know that genuinely happened. And that really shook me up, because I was like, I don't know what to do here. I had a person coming to me, approaching me how I felt was aggressive. I didn't know the demeanour of the person. I didn't know what was going to happen next. I had a 4-month-old infant in a pushchair, and I was like, what the fuck do I do? And it was one of the first times in my life where I had truly felt utterly terrified for myself and also my child. Nothing at all. It was, it was some heated exchanges from their end. I walked away and they gave up. Thank God. And touch wood, it never happens again, and it has never happened again since. But it was, again, another thing to take to these people to say, we're done with this. This has gone too far. And they said to us, no, you have to still create this content. And we said, is there anything that we can do to stop this incident from happening again? Because if something did happen and it was really bad, I have no problems with deleting the channel, full stop. And I have no problems with walking away from, because if I got physically harmed, or heaven forbid my child got physically harmed, there wouldn't be a channel today, hands down. And a lot of people would be like, whoa, I wish someone had hit you then. Trust me, sometimes I also felt like someone would. But, like I say, we took this to them and they said, the best thing that you can do is, talk about this experience and tell people that you're going to be putting disclaimers in the video. And we were like, is that all we can do? And they said yes. And we were like, well, it's better than nothing. So that's exactly what we did. The disclaimers should have been in the videos from the get-go, ultimately. But we never thought it would be a problem. We never thought that it was going to be something that we'd need to put in. We were very naive to the situation, but yes, the disclaimers were put into the video, and they were backlogged across all the videos. And then we progress and we keep going, faking the content. People keep subscribing. The company's very happy because the channel's growing. The debunking videos keep coming out, tearing us apart. We're getting massively berated online, and we're just not happy. We were not happy making the content at all. And we were getting more and more frustrated because we were, at this point, as we get to move in house, we were probably about a year, maybe 2 years into this contract. It was around that time, but there were also other issues that were causing us to be frustrated. Like, they created our merch. It was fantastic. We loved it. We thought it was really cool. We never got paid for it. Fine, whatever. We were like, do we go to small claims with this? But it was going to cost us more to go to small claims than it was to get back the losses or the money that was owed to us. So we were kind of like tied there. Fine, we took the L. And then brand money never came to us. It was our share of brand revenue never came in. And, we were like, where's our money? And they're like, oh, the company hasn't paid in yet. And then we were like, okay, but, this video is now like 4 months old. Surely by now, they're like, yeah, the process always takes a while to get from them to us and then go through finance to then get to you. And it's like, all right, fine, whatever. And then we did go behind the company's back at one point and reach out, because in the email threads, you speak to someone who's basically a correspondence person for the brand. And we spoke to them without the company knowing, and they were like, oh yeah, we paid that in 3 months ago. And we were like, brilliant. So we took that, went to them, and they were like, why did you go behind our backs? And then it was like, they were like, you can get in a lot of trouble for that. And we were like, oh shit, okay, just forget we ever did anything then. Keep the money, whatever. Because we were in no position to get sued, literally. We had the house move coming up and everything. So it was like, right, fuck it, we'll take the loss. Anyway, so this is not me shifting the blame, by the way, but this company had a lot of sway in what we did, how our memberships and our finances and online finances. And, they took revenue and they took a percentage of it, and they had the majority share, and they basically told us that we couldn't shift. Looking back on it, again, I'm not trying to shift the blame. The blame is ultimately on me for creating that content and continuing with it and being in the position, or finding myself in the position that I found myself in, because looking back on it, I can get frustrated with the company all I want. I can get frustrated with the debunking videos all I want, but ultimately, I was the one that made it. And I was the one that hit upload every single time that we uploaded a video. I was the one that hit publish every time the video was published and went live to all those people. And we were the ones that were keeping it up. So ultimately, the onus does fall down to me. And I'm not trying to shift the blame. And I'm just trying to provide a bit of context as to this is stuff that people didn't realise was going on. Anyway, fortunately, I mean, I say fortunately with the loosest of terms, but fortunately the company got sued massively by a lot of people, because it turns out it wasn't just us that they were doing these dodgy dealings with. And a lot of creators who were in far better financial positions than us basically sued the crap out of the company. And the company, I can't remember, I think it folded, but then rebranded as something else. And I don't know, I can't remember what they go by today, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went. So that's why I don't really want to bring the company up, because you know, they might catch wind of this video and be like, oh, you're talking shit about us, you can't prove any of this actually happened, so we're just gonna take you to court. And it's like, ah, shit, because that's the kind of shit that they did to keep people quiet. Anyway, I digress. After that, we had a period where the channel was completely ours again. And this came around the same time that we were looking to move house. So, you know, we were looking to move. Lainey had a job lined up for when she moved up here, and she went back into working in a school, and I was also looking for work, but to do that, it would mean we'd obviously have to put the little one in childcare. So we looked around for childcare as well. I don't know if anyone's got children out there, but childcare and nursery fees are fucking extortionate. And I mean extortionate. It was going to take up at least one of our wages to put him in nursery, in childcare. So we were like, well, it's either one of us works for free or one of us stays at home and pursues the online stuff and tries to, like, you know, generate the money to basically pay for the bills, essentially, because we needed 2 wages coming in. I think most people nowadays do need 2 wages coming in because the cost of living is insane. Anyway, moving forward. So we were like, right, we're at a crossroads here, because the content that is not, because we'd spent 2 years now building up this channel, everything paranormal was working, anything that wasn't paranormal wasn't. So we were like, right, we need to continue doing this then, to be able to support our lifestyle. And, you know, that's why we continued, even after this management company. And again, there's no one to blame there but me. Like, that was a decision that we made together, me and Lainey, but ultimately I took on. And that's why I stayed at home, made content, and continue to make paranormal content in our new house. And then Lainey went out to work. I could stay at home with the little one, look after him. And also it meant that, like, we weren't missing out on, you know, all the money that we made was ours. It wasn't going out on childcare fees and stuff like this. And this was before the time of 2-year-olds being able to have, he wasn't even 2 at the time. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation. But we moved house. I continued making the content, continued staging the content. And we then got really seriously in deep with a lot of debunker videos. Really, they were coming out thick and fast. Every time we uploaded a video, they uploaded a video, and it would tear us apart. And it was like, this just isn't working. Like, as much as we're putting out the content and we're trying to, you know, create the content to build up the channel, it was getting torn apart. The credibility was going, the subscribers were leaving at the same time, and it was like, shit, like, what we thought was going to be the ideal situation is no longer the ideal situation. And then we got new management, and it's a very different ball game, but there's a lot of different moving factors in there, but we continue to make that content. And now we had the very fortunate position where this new management company came in. They were looking after us, and they we went into a new contract with them, but it was a very thought out. We had to really think about it because we've been stung before. We were like, listen, we spoke to the people at this new company and we were like, look, we've been stung, we've been done over. I need to be certain that you're not going to do this to us like what they did. And they were like, all right, well, here's the contract, take as much time, you either take it or leave it. That's fine. It ended up being something that was in our favour, and they ended up being our management. This was before we went into partnership, and they were our management. And they were looking after all the content. But they also said, you know, keep up with what you're doing. You need to keep that stuff up, because if we're going to pivot, ultimately, you're going to have to... So, again, we were in a position where we were like, we need to carry on making paranormal content. And at this point, it was, you know, we were financially dependent upon this content, which was a very, very difficult position to be in, because the more that the debunking videos came out, the less credibility we ended up having on the channel, and then it just ended up harming everything. And we were like, we need to move. Fortunately, there was then the period of time around this time last year where we were able to pivot the content a little bit and move it, keep it in the paranormal, but talk about like the whole Zach Baggins thing went on, and we were able to really hone in on that. And that was us really fucking launching everything into trying to move away as much as we could from the paranormal content. Unfortunately, we were kind of able to, but there was still a very stagnant kind of period. And then the alien stuff came around earlier this year, and we were able to completely move away from the paranormal, and we were like, thank fuck for that. And everything slowed down. Obviously, that's kind of where we're at now. So that, I don't want people to walk away from this being like, well, you're just pointing the finger at other people. No, I truly take onus and everything that has happened on our channel, and everything that we've ever posted is completely on us. But I hope that can provide a little bit of context as to what our circumstances were and why we kept it going. It's no one's fault but my own. It's no one to blame for you know, the channel. There's no one to blame for the content that was being uploaded but me, because like I say, I could have pushed harder to try and move away from these different contracts and stuff, but it was a mess. It was a big mess. And that's all I can describe the past from before January of this year, back to probably like 2020, late 2021, 2022, because it was just an utter shambles. And then there was you know, this is completely irrelevant, but you know, there was a lot going on in our personal lives, Lainey's birth being one particular thing, and there was a lot of struggles there. And it was like, you know, there was a lot that was going on behind the scenes as well. But like I say, doesn't excuse what happened. And this is the part where now I feel like it's important to acknowledge the people that may have been hurt along the way. Because ultimately, as much as we felt like our hands were tied, there were a lot of people who were hurt along the way, who could have been affected by the content that we made, who could have been negatively impacted by what we did, by what we said, and things like this. And, you know, it's for that this comes from Lainey as well, but I can only speak on behalf of me. Lainey doesn't like being on camera anymore, but I can only apologize. I can truly, from the bottom of my heart, apologize for how we affected you. And it wasn't until I read the comment section of Beardo's video that I realized, fuck, these people, there's a lot more to this than just making content. There's a whole community of people that were affected by this. And to those people, I truly apologize. Like, from the bottom of my heart, I don't expect you to walk away from this video thinking, oh, what a great guy. I don't expect anything to change. I don't expect your mindset about me to change, but the frustration, and this is where I feel like it's important to link it into the whole Beardo situation. What was frustrating for us was when debunkers like Beardo, who would make content on us, would go, at times we felt it was quite personal, and the frustration came from the fact that we didn't want to make that content. We didn't like the content that we were making. Like, that channel just harbors nothing but negativity for us. Like, we barely even touch that channel anymore. I've tried so hard to move away from that, to literally creating brand new channels from scratch, not even promoting those channels on that main channel, just because I don't want any of that near any of this. And that's how I truly feel about it. And it's just harbors nothing but negativity. And, you know, it's frustration towards the fact that we felt like we were at times being, you know, told that we're horrific people, and feeling like, well, fucking hell, we don't want to be making this content. We did make the content. This isn't me saying that, like, you know, we still made it. And that doesn't, like, that's not me trying to be like anything. I'm not trying to excuse the behaviors. I'm not trying to excuse anything. Like, I'm holding my hands up and saying we did fucking wrong, really fucking wrong. And you know, we obviously I've got to stop saying we, because Lainey's nothing to do with this. This is all me. I made a video about Beardo at the peak of my frustrations, right? And this was before any therapy, personal stuff. There was a lot going on. There was a long period of time where I wasn't at home, and I was down with my parents, and, you know, there's a long list of things that went on there in personal life. And, you know, I was so fucking stressed out with life, with the channel, with everything, that I literally bottled up all my frustrations, and I just launched it at the one person that I felt most frustrated with at the time. But the one person, looking back on it, that I was truly most frustrated with in that time, after a lot of reflection over the past few days, especially with the online stuff, was me. Like, I was frustrated with myself, and I was in such a toxic place mentally myself, that I was so unaware, like, of myself. I was so unaware of my part to play in everything. Like, I signed the contract with that company, which then meant that we built a channel around the paranormal. I created the content around a channel that after the contract was finished, so that I could support a lifestyle, not because I didn't want to go and find a job, but because, like, logistically it made more sense. I was frustrated because I was being painted out as a person that I didn't feel like was a true reflection of me. And I was frustrated that people were calling me things, not Beardo specifically, but, like, you know, people who were watching that kind of content and being like, you're a horrible person. And I was like, and, you know, I threw all my frustration at someone that I don't even know. And, you know, there were parts of that video which I do stand by today, you know, like with the personal stuff. And that's not me trying to, like, spark up any more drama. Please don't think that I am. I'm gonna take that video down, because ultimately, upon a lot of reflection with the online stuff, the only person I should have been frustrated with in that time was me. But because of the toxic person that I was back then, I should have been more, like, that frustration was all me, and it should have been aimed at me. I should have fucking looked in the mirror and made that video about myself, because I was so, you know, and I never blamed Beardo for this, but, you know, at that point I was like, I burst out with fucking shingles, and it was it was just messy. The whole thing was messy. Change of scenery. It's I had to come downstairs on babysitting duties because Lainey's got to go to the hospital to go and see her dad, but it does give me the opportunity to clear up two misconceptions. Number one, I do have more rooms to my house than just the loft, and I do leave it from time to time when I'm not making YouTube videos. Number two, Lainey is still alive. Many people thought she was dead for the last, like, year. She's not. She's still alive. She just does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, and we are still together, and we're actually happier than ever. But where was I? Talking about the whole Beardo situation. So I felt like it's important to bring this up, because if I'm going to lay my cards out on the table and I'm going to address everything, I'm going to address everything. And I know Beardo wasn't looking for an apology, but I think it's important to acknowledge the situation and the implications that may have had on him. And, you know, I apologize for that video. And like I say, I think, you know, I'm going to take it down. And it's important to, this is not me trying to, like, be like, oh, look, we're going to be best mates after this, because, you know, however you feel towards me after this video is absolutely how you feel, and that's fine. But I feel like it's important to acknowledge this, and it's important to bring it up, and it's important to bring all of it up. And, you know, finally, I just want to end on one final apology to anyone that's been upset by us. Please know that the people that you may think that we are, I've seen a lot of comments about who people think that I am. You know, one time or another, I may have been that. But I've gone through I've tried to go through a lot of personal growth, and I've tried to change the person that I am so I can be the best version of myself for the little man that's running around right now like a little lunatic. And, you know, I feel like I'm there with that, and that's how, and this is a constant journey, of course, as is life. But I feel like I want to thank Beardo as well for the video that he made, because if it wasn't for that video, I wouldn't be sat here doing this right now, and there would have been I wouldn't be able to move forward. I'd be making videos on the paranormal, and people would be like, well, yeah, that's great, but you also did this. And then I'd be like, well, yeah, but then I'll be like, well, why are people like talking about that? Like, that's completely irrelevant now. But it's not completely irrelevant. And it wasn't until I saw that video that I was actually like, actually, this is why it's not completely irrelevant. But all I can do now is apologize to you, and that's moving forwards. I'm hoping to use the content and the channels that we've created for better, to make them fun again, make them informative, make them you know, as much as I can, and use the knowledge the very minimal knowledge, I must say, that I gained over the past few years, and maybe implement that into my content moving forward, especially on Simply Strange, to highlight things or make, you know, I don't view myself as a debunker by any means, but if I see something, maybe I can be like, oh, maybe this is how it's done, because that's how I would have done it, if that makes sense. And it might offer a bit of insight that other people haven't necessarily, a route that other people haven't necessarily gone down yet. So that's you okay? Yes. Yes, that's right. So this is a very roundabout way and a very long video to say, I'm sorry, I'm trying to do better, I'm trying to be better, and I'm trying to make amends with a lot of people. Beardo, the people that used to watch us, the people watching moving forwards, you know, I feel like it's important that this was made, and I don't know how to end it, so I've realised that I'm waffling. I'm really sorry. I'm sure you're probably all over the place getting motion sickness because I'm on my phone now. But, you know, I hope that people can understand where we are with this. I hope that people can, you know, I know that there's a lot of conversations or a lot of things that people are saying with regards to the content just being the same as everyone else. I try to take a different approach with things. Like, I try to reach out to the people specifically. So with the whole Andrew situation, recently I tried to have him on the channel to provide a different angle with the whole Conjuring House thing. I've spoken to Jason Hawes behind the scenes. I've spoken to Cody and Satori on the channel. I've spoken to Brian Dancer on the channel. You know, I've tried to get people involved with it. So it's something a bit different to what everyone else is doing. And sometimes I'm just behind the curve and trying to keep up. So I do apologise if some of it, the content that you see, might be repeated by other content creators. Unfortunately, sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But again, I realise that I'm just waffling now, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to be waffling. I hope that people can understand where I'm coming from. And yeah, I guess I just end it with one final apology, and I'm sorry. Catch you later.